Good afternoon, everyone. It's Nana. We're sitting here in the car waiting on the great grandbaby to get out of school so we can pick her up. And I thought I'd talk just for a few minutes about the early days, or what little bit I know about the early days of the Florida citrus industry. Because as you know, we've said before, I'm older than dirt, so I have a lot of memories of it. In the year I was born, in 1938, my daddy picked fruit for Waverly Citrus Co-op in Polk County. Many years later, when I was working in citrus, I asked him what he was paid for that. He said he remembered, of course, and it was 10 cents per box. Now, a box is, that standard exists today, is 1 3/5 bushels. That's a lot of oranges to pick for a dime. Of course, as you know, everything was cheaper back then, but it was still a pitiful wage. Then, over the years, I've had family members that worked in citrus over in Polk County. My Uncle Boris had a harvesting company. His wife, Aunt Lorraine, graded fruit for, I think it was called Exchange Packing House in Winter Haven. For a short period of time, my mother worked at what was called Bordeaux Canning Plant in Winter Haven. She did sectionizing. That's where they had a special knife. It looks like a pie server. And the fruit came down a belt, and they picked it up and flipped the sections out of that peeled fruit into cans, and they went on down the line. So there's that part. Later years, when I could drive, and also riding the bus in northern Lake County and Orange County, on both sides of the highway, both 441 and later the Turnpike, for just as far as you could see, there was nothing but orange groves. They were absolutely gorgeous. No matter which angle you looked at them, the lines, the roads were absolutely straight. Now, there's nothing but developments of one kind or another, whether it's apartments or houses or whatever units. It's a sad thing. In 1989, I think, somewhere along in there, when they had this humongous freeze in northern Orange and Polk County, it was very damaging to the citrus industry. And of course, they've had the citrus greening, which has affected the trees. They're now taking steps to, of all things, inoculate, give shots to trees to control that bacteria that is so devastating to the industry. It's very sad to someone like myself who has worked in the citrus industry, since 1970. It's now 2025, so that's a pretty long haul, and I've seen so many changes, and I have to say they're not for the better. They're very sad. Most of the people that I know that have been in citrus for a lifetime, like myself, they're very saddened by the fact that now the land that these groves are sitting on is worth more than it could possibly make in taking care of the groves. That's a very expensive proposition, grove care. And so obviously when an older generation dies, someone who has a lot of groves, a lot of property, they sell that off to a developer, and the next thing you know, it's no longer trees, it's all houses. But that's the way of life in the state of Florida, and I suppose every other state. Life is full of changes. Some for the better, some not so much, and some just an even keel. At any rate, to me, what's happened to the industry is very sad. It was such a big deal when I was in high school. We had what was called the Orange Festival in Winter Haven. And shortly after that was the Gasparilla Festival over in Tampa. So a lot of the large companies like Tampa Electric, different Coca-Cola Company, and all, they all had big floats for the parade, they would first go to the Orange Bowl parade in Miami area. Then they would come up to Winter Haven and be in the Florida, we called it the Orange Festival parade. Then they would go over to the Tampa for the Gasparilla parade. It was just a wonderful time that you don't see those kind of parades anymore. You see Macy's. And this, I would say, in a small town way, that those parades were as equally interesting and diverse as the Rose Bowl and the Macy's. So that's pretty much it. And I've enjoyed visiting with y'all. And y'all come back to here